Today, we're fortunate to have Nicholas Pereira, TV analyst, former Wimbledon, French, US Open Junior champion, and the holder of 6 wins against #1 ATP players. Let's go right away and ask Nicholas. Nicholas, please explain to me the battle between tournament directors and the ATP.
It is a complex one, but I'll try to make it sound simple. There is this entity called the Board of Directors of the ATP that was formed in 1989 when the tour split from the ITF. That is formed by 3 representatives of the players and 3 representatives of the tournaments, and the deciding vote would be the CEO, which was originally Hamilton Jordan, then it was Mark Miles, lately Chris Kermode, and Andrea Gaudenzi now became sort of one step up, being the chairman. And we have another gentleman that is acting as CEO. So there is 7 votes. The problem is that the game has become a lot more complex. There is a lot more money than back in the 80s, even the 90s. And the decisions mean a lot of zeros going one way or the other. Now the players are represented by younger people probably with less business experience, and the tournaments are represented by savvy guys, 60, 65, even 70. And the CEO is swayed one way or the other. Now, the main representation of the players feel that the CEO from time to time has not acted in the best interest of the players, specifically in the terms of prize money, but there are countless other issues that are discussed. So there's been a lot of discord of late. I think the power of the Big 3 or Big 4, because Andy Murray was the president of the Player Association for a long time, so has been Federer, Nadal, Djokovic of late. I think that those 4 forces got together and improved the conditions for the players. Still, there is a lot of discord and there is not a lot of unification, so the role of the CEO has become more important. Now, what I feel, or what has been talked about, is that this structure should be changed. There should be more representatives. There should be more dialogue. And I am one of those people that believe that the more we talk, the more we find that we have similarities and common interests. And I think this issue could be solved. But some faction of the players have taken dramatic actions of late, and that has not sat well with the tournament. So it is, especially in these times, these are very trying times, and they're trying to navigate these waters as smoothly as possible. And I personally think that Andrea Gaudenzi has been doing a good job.
Nicholas, you just alluded to the different faction. I know that the ATP has been dealing with a breakaway group headed by Novak and our own Canadian Vasek Pospisil. Can you please explain exactly what's going on there?
Well, both Novak and Vasek, when they were in the Player Council, were very passionate about this, and they have since stepped out and created this group. Initially, it was formed by men and by women. Then the woman, for some reason, stepped out, and they made the famous announcement at a very bad time, right before the US Open, during the pandemic last year. So that didn't sit well with a lot of people. There are passionate discussions in the player meetings, particularly by Vasek and Novak and the guys in that group, to the fact that players should be represented only by players, and that we should not be associating this close to tournament directors, and the structure should be gone in a different way. To a degree, I agree with Vasek and with Novak, 2 very bright guys who, Vasek in particularly, I had very nice talks with, and he's been very candid, and he doesn't hide what he feels. He's a bright young man. And basically, they are suggesting all players unite to create their own rules and then go to the tournaments and not impose, that would be too strong a word, but certainly advise them to give the players better conditions, open up their books, which I think has happened of late. So if anything, this has helped. I think it might not be the perfect timing. There is the discussion alongside the WTA, which is the women's entity, and the ITF, and the powerful or the Slam nations federations. So there is a lot of power there. They move a lot of masses, they move a lot of money, and it is certainly something to think of. But in this day and age, you cannot think of yourself alone or your group. You have to listen to what the others say.
That's interesting. You just mentioned the WTA and that last US Open, what they've done. What about this discussion about both tours getting together?
There's been talk with very powerful advertisement people. I know of 2 or 3 that have caught my eye, where they say in this market, when man and woman are in this equality turn and that everything has become more equally divided, that some products or some brands would be more eager to associate with both tournaments being together. Namely, if you're a men's tournament and you would get a 40% number for your prize money, and you're a woman tournament, you would get a 20 or 25%. These companies, if they had a joint tour or they had a joint tournament, would be willing to go to 100. So that would be 50% for the man. That's what some men don't understand. You would get a bigger paycheck, but you would have to share the space and the limelight with the woman. But to these companies, it would be that much more appealing. And it really makes sense the way the world is turning these days. And I think it would be a very effective way to gain the confidence of those hardcore fans that are ultimately what make our sport, and possibly a new wave of fans that we would be getting if we have these mixed events. But there's a hardcore group of men particularly that are very against this sort of union.
Nicholas, first of all, thank you for the insight into politics. It might interest a lot of people. I know a lot of people don't know about it, but I know the next question, everybody will be interested. During this pandemic, okay, some players must have benefited, and some of them came out of the gate and have not benefited. What has been your insight since the beginning of the year? Who are the players that have benefited and which ones haven't?
Well, there are pros and cons in every case. Let's just say you're a young player and you started playing the circuit and you have to fine tune something. I think that this pandemic has given them a chance to correct their course, to improve in the areas that they needed to improve. And most of them have used it that way. I've been surprised after tennis restarted. But then if you're a player at the tail end of your career, so you're 35, 36, maybe not making that much money, it is very hard to wait for a year, especially if you're in the mid-tour, you're not in the big league, sort of speak. It's very hard to make a living, but you want to keep playing tennis because that is what you love. So that is 2 polarizing examples that I could give you. Then if you're a player in the meat of your career doing great, you don't want this to stop. And some guys might get frustrated by all of this. Say you're a player from a faraway nation in terms of where the center of tennis is, which is Europe and the United States. If you're a Latin American player, it's really hard because of the quarantine rules in different countries, tennis being a global sport. So if you're a player from Australia or from China, I don't think it's that good for you. Now, if you're a European Union player that you live there, you've done your quarantine, you're not leaving your area, it's a big plus. And then there is the ranking system. You know, there is a semi-freeze on the points from the year before. If you don't make the same round, you know, that the result from last year would count. Now, starting in the next month, they're going to have a 50% reduction in those points. So for a player that's climbing, that's playing very well, Zverev has been very vocal about it. He's played very well, and he has not climbed as much as he would have under regular conditions. So as everything during this last year and a half, there are measures that need to be taken. I think it was the correct thing to do personally, but it's certainly going to hurt some players. What I'm really worried about is by the little leagues, the small guy, that guy that the tournament prize money in a challenger has gone to half. You win a tournament and you're making $2,500 that might not even cover your expenses. And that's what the ATP is looking at, with a magnifying glass, because those are the guys, the grassroots, which we need to protect.
Wow, Nicholas, thank you for the insight. As always, very insightful. And I know you're getting ready for the French Open, and we're looking forward to your next report to see what's new on the tour, what's happening, and maybe a little report on the Canadians and how we're doing. Nicholas, thank you as always.
Hey, I'm telling you, the Canadians are doing a lot better than they were in my time. And I know it brings a smile to your face because I know how much you've put in for Canadian tennis. But I tell you, you have plenty of reasons to smile about it. And I look forward to seeing them at the French Open. And I take the opportunity to say hello to the whole Canadian tennis community, who has been in my heart for a long, long time, and mainly because of your presence, Pierre. So thank you very much, and congrats on the show.
One love, bro. Take care. Excellent.
Good.